why would seeking assistance or seeking help from the from the saints or from the prophet be wrong? I mean, that is the first question. I mean, like, so I think people who are against, invoking the prophet or, supplicating to the saints, to the imams, or to the prophet, invoking them. I think people who believe this, they think that, it somehow constitutes polytheism, okay, or shirk. But one needs to understand that shirk itself can be classified into three or four distinct kinds. Okay, so there is shirk zati, or essential polytheism, which is the opposite of, or which is the opposite of Tawheed Zati. So Shirk Zati is to believe uh, in a plurality of necessary beings. Okay, then you have I would simply explain these different classifications of polytheism very briefly. So Shirk Zati is to believe that there is a plurality. There are more than one necessary being, so more than one absolutely self-sufficient agents or creators, or principles of the cosmos, the mabda kainat, basically. So shirk sifati is to, and then there is shirk sifati, which is to believe that the divine attributes of perfection are accidental or additional in relation to the divine essence, instead of being identical or the same as the divine essence. So that is shirk sifati. And then there is shirk af'ali, okay, according to which there are more than one absolutely self-sufficient agents, and the necessary being is not the only self-sufficient agent. So there are more than one fa'il bil istiqlal. And then there is shirk ubudiyya, or shirk ubudi, which means that it means to worship someone other than the necessary existent. Okay, but obviously over here one would need to further explain what exactly do we mean by worship over here, or ibadah over here. So any act of submissiveness, any act of humility that you perform for an entity, and you have it in your mind that this entity possesses either all or one of the following four attributes, which is Rububiya, Malikiya, Khaliqiya, and Uluhiya. So if you perform any act of submissiveness or humility, by associating all or any one of these following, attributes to that entity, so that act, would be considered as an act of worship, or would be an act of worship. So yeah, these are the different kinds of polytheism, okay, that we have, basically. Now, when we call upon or invoke the prophet or the saints or the imams, okay, for assistance or help, so just let us go through that, in which particular or specific category does this calling upon the prophets or the imams fall into. So obviously it cannot fall into shirk zati, okay, or essential polytheism. Why? Because no one, okay, and no one who calls upon the prophets or the aimma or the imams or saints, okay, believes them to be necessary in themselves with respect to existence. So it cannot be shirk zati. Then it cannot be shirk sifati as well, because shirk sifati has nothing to do with the calling upon the Aima or the prophets, okay, because it is to believe that the attributes, the divine attributes of perfection, are not the same as the divine essence, but are identical or accidental in relation to the divine essence, then obviously it cannot even be shirk af'ali. Okay, because shirk af'ali is to believe that there are more than one absolutely self-sufficient agents of file bil istiqlal, other than the necessary existent. Okay, so there are other agents that are capable of acting in an absolutely self-sufficient manner in all respects, apart from the necessary, the one necessary being. But obviously, nobody who calls upon nobody from amongst the Muslims who calls upon the prophets and the imams believes them to be absolutely self-sufficient in any respect. In fact, the truth is that these divine, souls, that these nufus qudsiya ilahiyya, okay, are absolutely dependent upon the necessary existence, upon the first truth in all respects, min jami'ul jihad. Okay, so, and obviously nobody ascribes any of the four attributes of Malikiya, Khaliqiya, Rububiya, or Uluhiya to the Prophet or the Imams. So any act of submissiveness or humility that is performed, towards them cannot be regarded as an act of worship. Okay, so I mean, like, we see that calling upon or invoking the names of the Prophet or the Imams does not fall or does not fit in any of the different categories of polytheism, or the different classifications of polytheism that we just enumerated. Okay, so why would it be wrong, basically? We as human beings, okay, we live in a world of causes and effects, and we are dependent. Okay, we are not absolutely self-sufficient. So, for instance, in order for satisfying our hunger, we are dependent upon material food. For quenching our thirst, we are dependent upon water. Okay, for the subsistence of life, for remaining alive, we are dependent upon air. Okay, to breathe air, and there are obviously so many other material objects, inanimate objects that we rely upon, that we use. Okay, day in and day out. Okay, uh, and this also is a form of tawassul. Okay, uh, similarly, when we fall sick, so we seek the help of a physician. Okay, when we are ignorant, we seek out an expert. So we try to remove our ignorance by by hiring a tutor, or by attending an institute or a university. Okay, so we are employing material causes, okay, or seeking assistance from material causes day in and day out. So why would it be inappropriate to seek assistance or help from someone who is a divine guide, okay, as someone who is a hadi, sent by God, okay, as to guide us. Okay, so I don't see any reason why this should be wrong. Now, there could be an argument made that these individuals, okay, they are no longer living, they're not alive, okay, and therefore they are incapable of helping us or providing us with any kind of assistance. But the problem over here is that the Quran, in the eyes of the Quran, these individuals are very much alive. Okay, as the Quran states itself, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. And then in another verse it says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. So the shuhada, okay, the witnesses are alive, and obviously, the prophet and the imams have a much nobler and exalted status than ordinary witnesses or shuhada. Okay, as the verse in Surah Nisa makes this point very clear. It says, وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِم مِّنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. So it mentions shuhada after anbiya, Siddiqeen, and Salihin. Okay, so in fact, it mentions Shuhada after Anbiya and Siddiqeen. So obviously, if the Shuhada are living, if they're alive, okay, so the prophets and the Aimma are more worthy of being alive. Okay, so even they're living. Okay, so even they're alive, and there is a very famous hadith, I think, from Amir al-Mu'mineen. I think it's in Basair al-Darjat, or I'm not sure about the exact text. Probably Ilyas, you can clarify that. But I think Amir al-Mu'mineen states that anyone from amongst us, meaning from amongst the Ahl Bayt, who dies, he doesn't really die. Okay, and something to that effect. So yeah, I mean, like, and I think that's about it.
Yes, yes, Ustad. The
Can
thing
I
is
ask a
that,
question? So
yeah,
when you're talking to Wahhabis about this, they'll concede eventually. Okay, yeah, they're alive in Barzakh. They'll concede that point. But then they'll say something like, "We have," because they're just knuckly people, right? Knuckle without akal. So they say something
knuckleheads.
like, you know, yeah, okay, they're alive in Barzakh, no problem. But in Barzakh, you can't hear or see what's going on in the world, and there's no textual evidence that they can hear us in Barzakh. It's like they think there's like a big wall around them, or they're like far removed from us. So how would you like respond to something like that?
Yeah. It's a very important question to ask. In fact, the case is exactly the opposite of what they assume to be. Because you see, I mean, like, and we studied this in philosophy, that which impedes or obstructs, or acts as an impediment or an obstruction to perception, is matter. Okay, because matter is the hijab, it is the veil that basically obstructs our perception of reality. Okay, or idrak. Okay, so that which basically impedes or obstructs our perception, okay, or our acts as an impediment towards the acquisition of knowledge, is matter. Okay. uh, so what death basically does is that it removes this obstruction, because death basically is the separation between the body and the immaterial rational soul. So this obstruction, this veil, okay, of matter, okay, which is an impediment to knowledge and to perception, it is removed. Okay, and when it comes to this is the case with ordinary individuals. When it comes to the prophets and the imams, so since they are prophets, so they are already at the level of intellectual abstraction, or the tajarrud aqlani. Okay, otherwise they wouldn't be prophets, because the reason why they are prophets is because they are capable of perceiving revelation, which is an intelligible reality. Okay, a sublime intelligible truth. So, and in order to perceive something as sublime and something as pure as a divine revelation, there has to be a mutual ontological affinity or a certain munasiba or sinkhia between the soul of the perceptor and that the object that is being perceived, i.e., the revelation. So the soul of the prophet or the messenger has to be at the station of intellectual abstraction. It has to have attained tajarrud aqlani in order to be able to perceive or apprehend a sublime intelligible truth called revelation. Okay, so it is the exact opposite of what they think to be the case. When once this impediment has been removed, okay, I'm talking about matter. Okay, once the soul attains the level of intellectual abstraction, okay, now this may either happen, as it does with the prophets and the imams. Okay, while their souls are attached to their physical bodies, their material bodies, they attain the level of intellectual abstraction. Okay, or it can happen with any other individual, okay, albeit at a much lesser level, okay, as is the case with the prophets and the imams. But it does happen even in their case that upon death, there comes a separation between the soul and the material body, okay, and the Quran also refers to the same fact when it says, I think it is in Surah Hadid, there is a very beautiful verse in the Quran which says that today your sight has been rendered very keen. Okay, um, I don't remember the exact Arabic of the verse. Ilyas, if you know the verse, you can cite it over here. I think it's in Surah Hadid.
Uh, in Surah Al-Hadid,
Yeah, it's Surah Hadid.
I'll have to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it? Are you talking about this one? لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا فكشفنا عنك غطاءك فبصرك اليوم حديد.
Yeah, I think it's this one. What's it? I mean, like, what's the translation? I mean, we've removed the veil from your sight, so today your
Yes,
sight
yes,
is, yeah, something like that, right?
yes.
Yeah,
It's sharp.
yeah,
يوم الحديد. Yes, yes.
yeah. So the veil that is being removed is the veil of physicality, the veil of materiality.
Yes, this is in Surah Al-Qaf 22.
Yes, yes, precisely. So the case is the exact opposite of what they assume to be. Okay, well, once this veil, basically, it is the material body that acts as an obstruction to perception and to the acquisition of knowledge. Okay, otherwise, in the intelligible world, everything is alive. Everything is, a perceptor.
Right, right. So now the next logical progression to this question would be, well, yeah, even if we accept that they can hear all things, is one question is, isn't it shirk? Because only Allah has the divine attribute of all hearing, and now you are attributing this divine attribute to something that is not divine. And that is precisely what shirk is, which is to attribute divine attributes to things that are not divine. And the other question would be, well, even if these people can hear what is being said, how does that prove that they can affect reality in any substantial or particular way?
Yes. Now, uh, now, look, the attributes of God are matlaq, istiqlali, bil asala, and bizatihi. Okay, whereas the attributes of the contingent beings, okay, I'm talking about the perfections, okay, they are muqayyad, okay, bittaba, right, and ghayr istiqlali. Okay, so This is a huge difference between the attributes of the necessary and the attributes of the perfections of the contingent. Okay, so attributing, let's say, shifa, okay, to a contingent being, or attributing, the emanation, the ability to emanate mercy to a contingent being is not shirk. Okay, the Quran does it itself. Okay, God is Rahman, He is Rahim, but the Quran attributes mercy, okay, to the Prophet. Okay, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, God is the one who gives death. Okay, as the Quran says itself that. Uh, Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mautiha. Okay, but the same Quran attributes the same ability to the angels. Alladina yatawaffahumul malaikatu. Okay, so I mean, the Quran, in the eyes of the Quran, God is a wali. Okay, and in fact, there are certain verses that assert that nothing but God can be a wali. Wala yajid lahu min dunillahi waliyun wala nasira. But the same Quran attributes wilaya to the Prophet and to other believers. Innama waliyukumullahu wa rasuluhu walladina amanu alladina yuqimuna as-salata wa yutuna zakata wa hum raki'un. Okay, so so you see, it depends. I mean, like, is the Quran attributing wilaya over here? Is it the case that God is also the wali, and the Prophet parallel to God is also a wali, and the believers parallel to God are also awliya? No, that is not true. Okay, wilaya belongs in an absolute, essential, and unrestricted, unqualified sense. It belongs to God alone. Okay, but okay, uh, the wilaya of the Prophet is an extension or a manifestation of the wilaya of God. Okay, and same goes for the wilaya of the believers. Okay, it is an extension or a manifestation of the wilaya of God. Okay, so the attributes of the necessary are bidatihi. Okay, they are matlaq, right? They are istiqlali, and they are asli, bilasala. Whereas the attributes of the contingent beings are bittaba, bighayrihi, muqayyad, and ghayr istiqlali. Okay, so this doesn't. It would be shirk only if we were to say that the contingent beings possess these attributes in an istiqlali, zati, matlaq, and asli manner. But that is not what we are saying. We are saying that they possess these attributes in a bighayrihi, okay, muqayyad, ghayr istiqlali, and bittaba manner.
So, is there any attribute of Allah that is not attributable to anything else? And can you please translate these words, Ustad, that you said, matlaq, istiqlali, or yeah,
Matlaq
because I
means
think
absolute.
some people, yes, some
Yeah,
people don't
yeah,
understand the Arabic
I
terms.
understand. Yeah, when I say matlaq, I mean absolute. When I say istiqlali, it means absolutely self-sufficient. When I say, what was the other? Bil asala, so asli, so it means in a primary or primal sense. So that is what we mean. And you can reverse the case in the case of the contingent beings.
Right, right. So now, does this all hearing, does this apply to all the people who are dead? Like, can every dead person hear all things everywhere all at once?
No, 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 that is not true. That is not the case, and nor are we saying or claiming that. As I said, it depends upon your ontological or existential capacity, the istidade wujudi. Okay, so how much ontological or existential capacity does the soul have? Okay, any given soul. Okay, so I mean, the ability, all these perfections, in fact, whether it is hayat, qudra, ilm, irada, they would vary in intensity depending upon the level of perfection that they have attained.
Right, right, right. So now, how do we know that these uh, personalities, these holy personalities, they have any causal efficacy, and they can change anything in the material world? And when we are talking about them, are we talking about their particular souls, or are we talking about Haqiqat al-Muhammadiyya?
No, obviously, we're talking about their individual souls. Okay, we're talking about their because naturally, when I mean the miracles are performed by historical prophets. Okay, they're performed by, I mean, the Haqiqat Muhammadiyya. Okay, does not actually, I mean, the metaphysical reality of the prophet does not descend bidatihi, okay, and enters the physical world. No, it has manifestations, corporeal manifestations of itself, but the intellect, the first intellect itself, okay, does not descend into the corporeal world. So I mean, like,
Yeah, and also it doesn't operate in time. The Mohammedan reality, although people may not be used to hearing this, but the Mohammedan reality doesn't like respond to your prayer in real time because it's timeless. So the entity that's going to interact with you in real time, that entity is not the Mohammedan reality itself, and it's not God himself. It is a spiritual locus of manifestation that has a direct relationship to the spatio-temporal realm, and those locus of manifestations would be the individual entity of whoever you're calling upon.
absolutely, yeah, that is true. That is very
That's why
true. That is
there's like a
precisely.
different there's a different I don't want to say experience, but there's a difference in between calling on Ya Ali and Ya Hussein and Ya Jafar Sadiq, Ya Muhammad. Like you are actually calling out to a different entity, at least at that on its own plane. These are different entities. Obviously, at the higher plane, they're one, but they're different entities at the level in the realm of differentiation. Not the physical world, but even the world of arwah, of souls. So there is like a real difference there, and that's why I'm sure you have this in the Twelver tradition, probably more than other traditions. Like 12, like I've heard from people, and I've listened to people that sometimes people in your tradition have like not favorite imams, but there's like an imam who's personally special to one of you. So like you sort of have a special relationship with that entity, and like maybe it's more special when you call on him and go to his shrine and stuff. So that's a real thing. Like that's not a purely theoretical or emotional thing. So you can have your soul can have a special different relationships with like specific imams that you connect to.
Yes, yes, that's correct. Many people do have that. Yeah, a special connection to a certain imam, even though obviously all of them are revered and but yeah, I mean some people have a special connection to, let's say, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Some have a special connection with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's true.
So how do we prove that these people, these entities, can actually change something in the material world? What is the proof for that? Isn't Allah the only one who changes something in the material world?
Look, the thing is, God is an immutable reality. Okay, so if God is an immutable reality, so how does He intervene in the everyday affairs of man? Okay, I'm not saying He doesn't. Obviously, He does. Okay, uh, since His agency is absolute. But how does He do that? Okay, He cannot change, right? right? There can be no change within his essence. If you accept change within his essence, okay, and if you say that he intervenes in a direct manner, okay, so then that would imply, change within the essence, and if you admit change, his essence becomes a composite of an aspect of potentiality and an aspect of actuality. It would also become dependent upon a mover, and so on and so forth. uh, so if God intervenes in everyday affairs of man, so how does he do that? Okay, well, he does that through, through a divine representative or a guide. Now, this divine representative or guide could be a prophet, could be a messenger, and or he could be an imam. Okay, and that is how God intervenes, okay, in the everyday affairs of man.
So, is this personal connection that you can have with certain entities, is that not problematic, given that there are some people who have a stronger connection with one of these entities that is even stronger than their connection with Allah? So, wouldn't that make it problematic because they have a stronger connection with these entities in relation to Allah?
No, 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 it's not problematic at all. Why? Because these entities or these individuals, these sacred divine souls, or the Nufus Qudsiya Ilahiyya, are the vicegerents of God. Okay, so you see, they are not to be seen as other than God. They are not min dunillah. Okay, they are not to be seen as being separate from God. Okay, they are, okay. How shall I put it? They are the mirrors, basically. Okay, within which you get to see the attributes of God, okay, or the face of God. They are the face of God, okay. They are the ones through whom you basically connect or establish a link with the divine, okay. So they're not to be seen as being separate or other than God, okay. So when you ask the prophet, you're not asking someone other than God, okay. You're asking God. Okay. When you're invoking the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you're not asking someone other than God. Now, please, I mean, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to say over here that Amir al-Mu'mineen is God. Okay, so I mean, please don't get that impression. I'm trying to say something else. What I'm trying to say is that Amir al-Mu'mineen is an abd of God. He's a slave of God, but he is his imam and a khalifa of God. Okay, so the Khalifa of God is not separate from God. He is his representative. Okay, so when you're turning towards Amir al-Mu'mineen, you're not turning away from God. In fact, you're turning towards God. Okay, when you're turning towards or facing towards Rasulullah, you're not turning away from God. In fact, you're turning towards God. Okay, I mean, there are many verses in the Quran which basically point towards the same reality. Uh, for instance, there is this verse in Surah Nisa which says that concerning certain companions who had sinned, okay, by refusing to go into jihad, and the Quran states about them that وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فاستغفروا الله واستغفر لهم الرسول لوجدوا الله توابا رحيما. Okay, that those who sinned against their own souls or upon themselves, okay, had they come to you, O Prophet, Ja'uka, had they come to you, okay, and had you prayed for their forgiveness, okay, so God would have surely forgiven them. I mean, that is the gist of the verse, okay. So you see, turning towards the Prophet, okay, is tantamount or identical to turning towards God. Okay, and then there is this, and there is another verse concerning the brothers of Joseph. Okay, when they realize that they had done something, something wrong, okay, by attempting to slay their brother, and they, I mean, like, want to redeem themselves and atone for their sins. So they come to their father, and they say to him that قالوا يا أبا نستغفر لنا ذنوبنا إن كنا خاطئين. So Jacob, Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam, responds by saying that قالوا قال سوف أستغفر لكم ربي إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Okay, so they come to him and they ask him to pray to God for their forgiveness, and he says that surely I would pray to you, God is most forgiving. That is the gist of the verse. So turning towards the prophets or the messengers or the imams is the same as turning towards God. Okay, it is they're not two different things. Okay, and there is a very beautiful verse in Surah Baqarah which says that wa'atul buyuta min abwabiha, enter the mansions, okay, enter the houses through their gates. Now there is a very mystical meaning, okay, attached to this verse. Okay, and if you refer to the sayings and the utterances of the Aimma, so they explicitly state that we are the gate to God. Okay, Nahnu Babullah. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes, Ustad. But the problem is that what you are implying entails shirk fil uluhiyya. So, Sheikh Abdul Wahab, Al Wahhab, the founder of the Wahhabi movement, he divided this basically this Tawheed into three categories only. Tawheed Asma wa Sifat, Tawheed al Rububiyyah, and Tawheed al Uluhiyyah. And Tawheed al Uluhiyyah entails that uh, uh, that the only one who should be asked from is Allah. So the moment you ask from someone else, that is the negation of Tawheed al-Uluhiyya. So how would you reject, why are you rejecting this category of Tawheed, which is Tawheed al-Uluhiyya?
Well, I just explained that. I mean, like asking, we're also asking only God. Okay, I mean, like, for instance, I mean, there is a verse in the Quran which says that "Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in." But there is another verse in the Quran which says that "Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sta'inu bis-sabri was-salah." Okay, so seek isti'ana, okay, or assistance or help or whatever word you want to use. Seek isti'ana from patience and from salah. Now, patience and salah are not God. Okay, and the first mentioned verse says that seek help or assistance, whatever word you want to use it, only from God. Okay, so is there a contradiction in the Quran in these two verses? No, there is no contradiction. Why? Because even though patience and salah or prayer are not God, but they lead to God. They are from God. They are in the Allah. Okay, so so an imam or a messenger, they're also in the Allah, they're also from God. Okay, so when you turn towards the aimma, when you turn towards the anbiya, okay, you're turning towards God. Okay, so seeking help or assistance from them or invoking them is the same as seeking help or assistance from God. It would only be contrary to uluhiyah if one were to believe or posit that the prophet, okay, is capable of acting in an absolutely self-sufficient manner, or he is an agent, an istiqlali agent, or fa'il bil istiqlal. So that would be contrary to uluhiyah.
Yes, yes, but then what's the difference between you and a Hindu who, for example, a philosophical Hindu who worships, these different idols, but he has the same belief. He does not believe that these idols are, anything in their own self. Uh, they are just, symbols of the divine. So what's the problem with that Hindu then?
No, I mean, it depends. I mean, does he really, like, you have a Hindu, let's say, okay, now hypothetically speaking, and he believes that the necessary existence alone, okay, is worthy of worship, okay. So, and he associates neither one of the four mentioned attributes of uluhiyya, khaliqiyya, rububiyya, and malikiyya, okay, to any other entity. So then you cannot call whatever act of submission that he performs, okay, towards an idol, that is not worship. Yeah, it is. I mean, you can call anything else, but it is not an act of worship. It would only be an act of worship if he associates either one or all of these attributes to the divine.
Interesting. So is it somehow related to the symbolic significance of Kaaba in for Muslims basically?
No, I didn't get your question. I mean, like, how are you connecting it with Kaaba?
So if, for example, when Muslims face towards Kaaba, they don't do so with the belief that the Kaaba is, you know, any independent reality that there
Yes,
isn't God.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like, we'll have to ask a Hindu for that.
Yeah, no, I think like the philosophical Hindus at the least, but they also they used to deny any attributions of forms and images towards God.
Yes,
So I
yes,
think that's consistent.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So, as I said, if you have a Hindu who believes that there is only one absolutely self sufficient reality, that there is only one absolute or unconditioned being, and every other thing is dependent upon this reality, and whatever perfection or good which every other contingent being has, it has derived it from this absolute non-delimited reality. So and does not associates either one or of these four mentioned attributes of khaliqiyya, malikiyya, rububiyya, and uluhiyya with anything other than this absolute or non-delimited reality, so then yes, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right, right. There are things in tradition which say ad-du'a wa ibadah. That du'a is ibadah, and du'a means calling someone. So if you are calling someone, you are actually, you are actually doing ibadah of them. So how would that be interpreted?
Yes, this is another very interesting question. Look, uh, dua, okay, or dua to God, okay, and dua to the Prophet or the Imams. Over here, the word dua is a mushtarak lafzi, not a mushtarak manavi. So it is, the word dua is being used in an equivocal sense, not in a univocal sense. So the meanings over here are different. Look, when the when the Quran or when the ahadith say that dua can only be performed towards God, they're talking about dua bamana ibadah. Okay, dua in the sense of worship. Okay, and we've already clarified what worship means. Okay, worship is any act of submission or humility performed towards an entity, considering that it possesses either one or all of the four attributes of khaliqiyya, malikiyya, rububiyya, or uluhiyya. Okay, so dua, okay, in the sense of worship, okay, and there is a difference between dua in the sense of worship and dua not in the sense of worship. So dua, when it is done to God, it is done in the sense of worship, okay, because we have in our minds that God is our Rabb, He's our Malik and Khalik and the Ilah, okay. But dua, okay, when we call upon the Prophet or the Imams, Okay, so this is not dua bamane ibadah, or it is not dua in the sense of worship. So there is only ishtirak labzi, okay, without there being any ishtirak manavi.
Yeah, but the hadith say that dua is ibadah. That's where the problem is. Or is it talking about one particular meaning of dua?
Yes, yes, that is precisely what I'm trying to say. That dua, I mean, obviously, any dua, okay, which you perform, having this in mind that the entity to whom you're praying, he is your Malik or Rab or Khalik or Ilah, that would be ibadah. Okay, so dua in this, in accordance with this specific understanding, is ibadah.
Right, right. So, um, so this is the verse of the Quran that أَمَّنْ جَعَلَ الْأَرْضَ قَرَارًا وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا وَجَعَلَ لَهَا رَوَاسِيَ وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ حَاجِزًا أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ بَلْ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ أَمَّن يَهْدِيكُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَمَن يُرْسِلِ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى اللَّهُ عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. That, or ask them who made the, sorry, or ask them who created the heavens and the earths and sends down rain for you from the sky, by which we cause delightful gardens to grow. You could never cause their trees to grow. Was it another god besides Allah? Absolutely not. But they are people who set up equals to Allah. Or ask them who made the earth a place of settlement, caused rivers to flow through it, placed firm mountains upon it, and set a barrier between bodies of water. Was it another god besides Allah? Absolutely not, but most of them do not know. Or ask them who responds to the distressed when they cry to him, revealing their affliction, and who makes you successors in the earth. Is it another god besides Allah? Yet you are hardly mindful. So basically, Allah is saying that is there someone other than Allah who does yakshifu su, or who does kashifu su, or who does ja'al al khulafa al ard. So basically, Allah is saying that there is no one other than Allah who can do these things. So how do you answer that? Because people bring these verses and say, anyone you ask apart from Allah, other than Allah, you are explicitly denying the very clear verses that have been sent down by Allah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I've already answered that. That obviously, all these verses are indicating to the fact that God is the only absolutely self-sufficient agent. No other agent apart from God is capable of acting in an independent capacity or absolutely self-sufficiently. So the only file bil istiqlal, the only absolutely self-sufficient agent is the necessary existent. And that is what these verses are all referring to. Otherwise, as I said, that when it comes to the giving of death, and it is one of his 99 names, that Al Mumito. Okay, I mean, he's the giver of death. So, and the verse of the Quran explicitly states that Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtiha. But it attributes the same quality. It ascribes the same attribute of quality to his angels. Okay, where it is said that inna ladina tawaffahumul malaikatu. Okay, and same goes for all the other attributes. Okay, so the thing is that God alone gives death. It is not that God also gives death and angels also give death. God also gives life, and his angels also give life. Okay, God is also a wali and his prophet is also a wali. No, it's not like that. Okay, God gives death, okay, through his angels. Okay, I mean, the angels are a kind of an instrument or a tool. Okay, the agent is God. He gives life through the angels. He gives sustenance through the angels. He provides guidance through his messengers and his prophets and the Aimma, and so on and so forth. So all these verses are absolutely true. Okay, God is the only absolutely self-sufficient agent. Nobody has the capacity. No contingent being has the capacity or the potency to perform any of these actions in an absolutely self-sufficient manner.
So what is the difference between your view and the view of Trinitarians then? I mean, they are also saying that Jesus has all the power to do this, and Jesus is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So what is the difference between you and Trinitarians then, and why does Allah deny Trinitarians in Quran?
Because they are attributing divinity to Jesus. Okay, whereas obviously we're not. We're not attributing divinity to any other entity apart from God.
If creating the heavens and earth is not divinity, then what is divinity?
No, no,
I
no,
mean, this
no,
is of course, this is clear. This is what divinity is.
no, 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 no. I mean, like, if creating heaven and earth, creating heaven and earth in itself is not divinity. Creating heaven and earth in an absolutely self-sufficient manner is divinity.
Right, right. So is it fine if I say Jesus created the heaven and earth, but he's also created?
Well, the Quran attributes creatorship to Jesus. Anni akhluqu lakum min at-tin.
Hasnan bhai, I think one question was missed, which was about what is Haqiqatul Muhammadiyya? You know, like I know this belief is very common in early even Sunni traditions as well as Shia traditions, but I don't think people understand it that much. So if you could just explain, maybe even from a textual point of view, as you so brilliantly do and have done in this room, from a logical and textual point of view, what is Haqiqat Muhammadiyya, or what is Nur Muhammad basically?
Uh, well, we touched upon this slightly earlier in the course of this session or discussion. When I said that God is an absolutely simple reality, and since he's absolutely simple, and there has to be a certain mutual ontological affinity or sinkhia or munasiba between the cause and its effect. Okay, that basically marks the procession of the latter from the former. So yeah, so we came up with this rule of one, or qaida al-wahid, and we said that nothing but one, can proceed forth from the essence of that which is absolutely simple or absolutely one in all respects. Al-wahid min jamil jihad. So nothing but one can proceed forth in a proximate manner from the essence of such a sublime or august reality. So this entity, the first creation, okay, to emanate from the divine essence, we call that first creation, or Sadr Awwal, okay, the Haqiqat Muhammadiyah. Okay, so from a philosophical perspective, the first emanation or the first effect, okay, which is the noblest creation or the noblest contingent being by virtue of its proximity to the divine reality, okay, a proximity that is not excelled or surpassed by any other contingent reality. So, by virtue of its proximity to the divine, it is the noblest contingent reality, or the mumkin ashraf. Okay, and it is the means of the transmission or the effusion of divine grace from the creator to his creation. Okay, so and this reality can only be a substance, obviously. Why? Because if it were an accident, it would require a locus within which to inher for its existence, because an accident is a quality which, when it exists in reality, it is dependent upon a locus. Okay, but if a locus, so that would require the emanation in a proximate manner from the divine essence of a locus as well. Uh, but this violates the rule of one, because according to the rule of one, nothing but one can proceed forth in a proximate manner from that which is absolutely simple in all respects. So this first effect cannot be an accident. It has to be a substance. Okay, otherwise you would need a locus as well. Now, this substance cannot be a body, because every body is a composite of matter and form. So that would necessitate the emanation from the divine essence of matter, okay, as well as form. Okay, so it cannot be a body. It cannot be form, because form is dependent upon matter for its individuation. Okay, and it cannot be for its particularization. Sorry, and it cannot be matter, because matter is dependent upon form, substantial form, for for becoming, for its existence, for becoming something concrete in reality. Okay, so it cannot be matter, it cannot be form, it cannot be a body, it cannot be a soul, because the soul is associated with a body. Okay, and therefore it can only be an intellect. An intellect is a substance that is completely devoid of matter and material properties. Okay, so the emanation of an intellect, it is only the emanation of an intellect and an intelligible substance in a proximate manner from the divine essence, that would not imply or entail the a plurality of aspects within the divine essence. Otherwise, the emanation of every other thing, be it an accident or a substance, okay, would entail the existence of a plurality of aspects within the absolutely simple one. So we call this first effect, okay, the Mohammedan reality. Okay.
Right, right, right. And is there, why call it Muhammadan reality? Is there some basis for it in Quran or Hadith or something? Is there a proof why
Yes.
Prophet Muhammad is the noblest creation?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, he said it himself. You know, he said it himself that "Awwalu ma khalaqallahu nuri, awwalu ma khalaqallahu ruhi." Okay, so the first thing that God created was my spirit. Okay, the first thing that God created was my light, and we also have traditions that say that "Awwalu ma khalaqallahu aql." The first thing that God created was the intellect. Okay, so the intellect, or the Noor Muhammadiyah, or the Muhammadan, or the Ruh Muhammadiyah, okay, they're all distinct names of the same reality.
But that's an argument from Hadith. Is there something in Quran which proves that the Prophet Muhammad is the highest or the most noble of the creations?
Yes, yes, there is this famous verse from the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, and there is another verse in the Quran which says that وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ, that my rahma, my mercy, okay, it encompasses all things. And then there is another verse in the Quran which says that وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. Okay, I have created everything. So everything that exists has been created by God. But remember the verse that I recited earlier, وَرَحْمَتِ وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ, it says that God's mercy encompasses all things. It embraces all things. Okay, so that which embraces all things has to be prior to all things. Okay, and obviously this priority can only be essential, not temporal. Okay, so God's rahma, okay, which is Muhammad, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, so God's rahma, it embraces the alameen. Okay, and and the eyes of the Quran, it refers to Muhammad, because nothing can come into existence without partaking of God's all encompassing, all embracing mercy. Okay, nothing is beyond God's mercy. So if anything is to exist, it has to partake of God's rahmah, God's mercy. Okay, and
Okay,
in the eyes of the Quran, this mercy is the metaphysical reality of the Prophet Muhammad.
right, right, right. So by definition, the mercy is always superior than the one who is receiving the mercy.
Obviously, obviously, the bestower, okay, the benefactor is self-evidently nobler and more exalted than the beneficiary.
Right, and the benefactor in this case is the reality of the prophet.
Exactly, absolutely.